Right, we have a couple of questions for you.
I'll have some water and calm down for a second.
Right, Stuart asked in an email about his interest on his savings. Now, the wording is strange here. He, after received an inheritance and took a reduced pension from my employer, currently £600 a month.
OK.
He's got approximately £60,000 in various savings accounts that he moves around as rates rise.
Good.
As he's got a low income and currently doesn't pay income tax, will he have to pay tax on savings interest as it will be over the £1,000 allowance?
I think I've got the question.
Right.
So currently, if you're a basic rate taxpayer, you're allowed to earn £1,000 of interest each year, tax-free.
Yes.
Higher rate taxpayer, £500. But you also have, everybody has £12,570 they can earn of any income a year, tax-free. And if you're on a low income, there's also a thing called the starting savings rate, which gets complicated. I'm not going to dot I's and T's, which means, effectively, if you've only got savings income above that, you can earn £5,000 of interest tax-free before you go to the £1,000. If your only income is a £700 a month-ish pension, then, and you've got 60 grand in savings, you won't pay tax on those savings.
OK.
You won't pay tax, so you're fine, because you've got all those other allowances you use before the £1,000 allowance. Just go and look up the starting savings allowance. Go and have a read of the starting savings allowance.
Ash says, is there social help available for broadband for old age pensioners on state pension? She's with Sky, and the cost for broadband and mobile is around £69 per month.
Yeah. So we talked about the social tariff last time. And the social tariff, there are 4 million people in the country who are eligible for social tariff broadband. Way less than 10% of them claim that. It's long-term cheap. You're paying 10 to 20 quid a month for around 36 meg broadband. Far, far cheaper. Most of the big providers have it. Now, their eligibility terms depend on the company because they don't have to do this. But you know one of the big criteria? Pension credit.
I thought you were going to say that.
Pension credit. So you're asking, if you're a state pensioner, is there automatically help? No. If you're on pension credit, yes. Right. Almost all of them give you the social tariff on broadband if you're on pension credit. Now, she said she's on a low income struggling. Did I get that? Did I hear that right?
She says she's an old age pensioner on a state pension. OK,
so if you're entitled to pension credit, then that will likely trigger your access to social tariffs. So absolutely check that out. And for everybody else out there, if you're on universal credit, and in some cases, though it's rarer, other legacy benefits, check out social tariffs of your broadband provider. Can be a massive saving.
On Instagram, Charlie asked us about his debt with an energy supplier. He says he's in debt with his energy supplier and petrified that he's not going to catch up. So what can Charlie do?
And honestly, it sounds prosaic, but talk to your energy supplier. Tell them the situation. Tell them they should be able to give you stage payments to help you catch up. If you're really struggling on the money, they should be able to work it through with you. This is one of those moments when you should talk to the energy supplier. They have requirements of how they're supposed to help people. Ask them for help, especially if you happen to be vulnerable for any reason. I don't know if you are, but if you were, then you want to mention that. You get on the Priority Services Register.
On Twitter, Dominic has asked about his mother's direct debit. He says EDF want to increase his mum's direct debit repayment from £320 per month to £438 per month in September, despite her being in credit. Can this be stopped?
So that was in September?
He says EDF want to increase his mum's direct debit repayment from £320 per month now to £438 per month in September.
Well, that seems a little odd. If she's in credit right now, then to increase it in September, because we're expecting energy bills to drop in July.
That's right.
By about 20%, of course. So actually, you know, being stored up too much credit right now, you shouldn't be. That's a slightly separate issue to the amount of credit you've got. So what I would strongly suggest that you do is you go onto an energy direct debit calculator or some online where you put in your usage, and it will tell you under the price cap how much you should be paying on average over a year. If your direct debit is less than that, the credit might have been built up in another time, so then it's probably fine to put it up. But if that calculator's saying you don't need to be paying more, speak to the energy company. Under condition 27 of the energy firm's licence, you were studying Duran Duran, I was studying condition 27 of the energy firm's licence.
They did mention it at the O2 last night.
They sang. Did they sing the
in between View to a Kill and Wild Boys?
For me, it's their best. You have a right to a fair direct debit, and you should not have too much credit taken off you. That's part of their licence terms and conditions. So if the calculator shows that's not fair, I tend to find that strong evidence, and they tend, once you bring that argument in, some real facts of saying, hold on, you know, I shouldn't be paying this much, they tend to bring it down.
People getting in touch, sharing positive experiences with their energy supplier. Kerry tweeted saying she received a refund from Octopus Energy. She had £700 in credit, requested a refund of £500. That request was granted, and the money was in her bank account a week later.
And different firms have different policies on this. As I say again, if I was half a month's direct debit in credit right now, I wouldn't be that bothered. If I was 3 months, 4 months, 5 months in credit, and my direct debit is set at the right level, I would be asking for that credit back.
Kino asked on Twitter about smart meters. He said it would be useful to know whether those using a smart meter can pay for the exact energy used during the month, rather than paying a fixed direct debit sum. Because presumably, if you paid for what you use every month, you wouldn't build up credit, would you? You
wouldn't. But first of all, I know many people hate direct debit because they build up too much credit. The problem, that monthly direct debit is actually, it's the type of system, if it didn't exist, I would be campaigning for it to exist.
Right.
Because it's a budgeting system. It means you pay less in the winter months than you're using and more in the summer months, so you smooth it around. If you're not, you're going to be have really bill shock in the middle of winter when you're using all the energy in the middle of winter, and you're going to have to find that cash flow. So it is a good system. Bad implementation. We need it to be, the implementation to be good. But there are some people who don't want to be on that. Now, what people generally tend to do if they don't want to be on monthly direct debit is they move to something called payment in receipt of bills, which is where you do a meter reading or your smart meter does it for you and then you get a bill. That's very expensive. That costs 8% more than direct debit. But some firms, not all of them, offer what's called variable direct debit. So the normal system is monthly direct debit. They offer variable direct debit, where either via you giving a meter reading each month or via your smart meter, they bill you each month automatically by direct debit on how much you've used. So if your provider offers that, and I believe 4 of the big 6 do, then you could switch to variable direct debit. It's at exactly the same price as monthly direct debit, and you would pay what you used. But be prepared, you're going to need a lot more cash in winter because you don't have the smoothing that monthly direct debit gives you. It
must be in the energy company's interests to have you pay monthly direct debit.
Well, you get quite a lot of interest on £7 billion in a bank account.
I was going to say, if you go to the supermarket doesn't charge you a set amount each week for your shopping on the basis that it's good for you to budget that way. You just pay for what you eat.
I mean, to be fair, there are also customers who are in debt and therefore owe the energy company's money, so they've got a credit issue going on there. Yeah, as I say, and things I think have improved over the last 3 or 4 years. I've been involved in campaigning for improvement of rules, and of course, as we've had the energy crisis and so many people focusing on energy bills, it's been much more tight focus on this. This is an issue of implementation. I am a fan of the monthly direct debit system for most people. Most people could not cope with the cash flow they would need in the winter if we didn't have it. What we need to make sure is there are proper tight regulations on what counts as fair, because at the moment it's a nice fair term of fairness, and how much credit is too much credit. And so what will happen, I guarantee you something that's going to happen right now, some people with too much credit will get in touch with their energy firm and their energy firm will say, no, you have to wait 3 or 4 months. I believe that's an unfairness in the system. And by the way, be nice to the call centre operatives. It's not their fault.
No.
But I believe there's an unfairness in the system in the way you should be able to get your money if you're in too much credit. And this is the point of the year you should be doing it. But it'll work for some, and other people will end up being told no by their energy firm. And I think that we perhaps need to really tighten the rules on what counts as fairness when we're doing that.
Claire says she's in credit by £1,200 with her supplier, but her direct debit payments have been reduced by £200 a month to balance it out over 6 months. Should she ask for a refund instead?
If she wants a refund, yes. If she'd prefer to leave it in there, she doesn't have to. Okay. You can do it whichever way you find is better. Do that.